I'll give you a very brief introduction to the strategic objectives of AFOX. AFOX seeks to co-create equitable partnerships with
doing the right thing, sorry.
With colleagues across research institutions on the continent, and to make Oxford a strategic priority for the University of Oxford. And we do that partly because we believe in doing good things, but also because a global university needs to have a strategic focus on Africa. By 2050, most of the student population in the world will be African. Africa is an extremely dynamic continent whose economies are growing, whose population is growing, and Africa will be at the center of solutions to any of the global challenges that we're facing. If you think about climate change, then all universities need to have a focus on Africa and have a strategic relationship with Africa. Here's a brief introduction to the team, some of whom are in the room, and so you'll get to meet some of the team, and some of them I think will be joining later. So you'll get an opportunity to meet the growing AFOX team, many of whom will be here today. Our work is focused on 3 areas: education, research, and innovation. And I'll talk you through some of those programs and how some of those programs might, so how you might engage with some of those programs. And some of you I know are already engaging with the work that AFOX does, but I'll talk through these programs in greater detail. But these are the 3 focus areas that AFOX has that run across the work that the university does. So we work with students, we work with researchers, and we work with innovators. We have 4 key research themes, which are up on the screen. The way we are developing, so the focus of these research themes is a way of bringing those 3 key elements that we work with together and having conversations across innovators, researchers, and the scholars that we support. The research themes are going to be kind of developed with, as is the ethos of AFOX, co-developed with colleagues on the continent and with those members of our community, with the innovators, the researchers, and the scholars that we work with. So we don't have kind of paragraphs at the moment that we circulate that describe what these research themes are. These research themes are going to be developed with the communities with which we work, the communities of researchers, scholars, and innovators with which we work. One of the programs which might be of interest to some of the colleagues in the room, and I know, and actually we're really delighted that we have one of our visiting fellows, one of our senior visiting fellows is actually in the room with us today. Hi, Letitia. We run a visiting fellowship program which may be of interest to colleagues. This enables a year-long engagement between research networks or colleagues here in Oxford and colleagues on the continent. It's applied for both ways, and then there's a year-long engagement with research fellows coming here to spend May and June in Oxford. We have just started a round of 15 where we have 15 fellows, and they work, as with everything in AFOX, we work across the whole of the university. So they're historians, archaeologists, people who work in gender studies, people who work in global health, physicists, chemists. It's a really wide range of researchers. This is for colleagues in the room who haven't engaged with AFOX. This is one of the kind of opportunities would be to act as a collaborator for an AFOX visiting fellow, and that application will open again in January. One of the other schemes that we run that may be of interest to colleagues in the room is a Catalyst Grant Programme, which opened on Monday for another round of applications, and those are open until the 27th of October. These are reasonably small grants of £5,000, which again apply for between a researcher in Oxford and a collaborator on the continent. They're it outlines there to establish new collaborations. You can do that through either travel or kind of the early phase proving of an idea, so the early phase of research. We funded over 200 travel grants, and they're again across the whole breadth of the disciplines, departments, divisions within the university. One of our colleagues has just done an evaluation on the first few years of those travel grants, which have reported on their outcomes, and we're very happy to say that 76% of the awards that returned information to us had led to further collaboration, and they've leveraged. So I think it was around £770,000 over those 6 or 7 years the grants have costed, but they've leveraged £15.5 million of funding. So they've been really key in supporting the development of ideas, which has led to further funding. And that call is open, as I say, at the moment until the 27th of October, and then there'll be a further round that opens in mid-January. That's an easy way to get involved with EFOX. And then we run a substantial scholarship program, which is run in partnership with the MasterCard Foundation, as well as with other partners in the university. I'm delighted that one of our alumni is in the room as well, Cynthia, who's working with the Pandemic Science Institute at the moment. And we've just finished an orientation program for the incoming cohort of scholars, which is 43 master's students, 3 doctoral students, and 7 scholars taking online programs at the university. So a large and substantial cohort. And I know that we're working with several people in the room to support those scholars. We support them pre-Oxford with support to enable any scholar from any background to come to Oxford, so support with flights, visa costs, the TB test. It's a fully funded scholarship, so provides a stipend and the course fees. And then something that we're working with a number of colleagues in the room on is the Ubuntu period of service, the Ubuntu transitions programs, which enable scholars to transition into meaningful and impactful work with organizations focused on the continent following their master's scholarship. And we're working with a number of groups in the room to support those, Trudy and Mike, to support those scholars to transition into that meaningful work. And then we support them through a lifelong alumni network. So once they have left that program, we remain connected with them so long as they want to remain connected. And the final program that I'll talk to you a little bit about is the Health Innovation Platform run by my colleague Watu Wamai. This is a platform at the moment focused on health innovators, but seeking to support innovators across the breadth of the innovation landscape eventually. The program is now with its 3rd cohort and has been really, really successful. The first part of the program is a virtual engagement where at the moment where it's focused on health innovation, the innovators often have a very clear idea of the innovation and how that fits into the health landscape. The part that they often need support with is the support in understanding how to get funding for, make a business case for, the support in understanding the entrepreneurial landscape. So that's what the first part of the online training is principally focused on. After going through that online training, there's a second selection process, and then those that go through the second selection process come here to Oxford to engage with colleagues to develop some of those the technical aspects of their innovation, and they're matched with a collaborator here in Oxford to develop those innovations. And we just had this year the first boot camp, so the first set of fellows who've arrived in Oxford and are very much still engaged with that program through an alumni network WhatsApp group. And the final thing, so this is my final slide, would be to ask you to engage with EFOX. If you're interested in any of those programs, if you have a history of collaborating with Oxford or with Africa, or if you're interested in establishing collaboration with colleagues on the continent, please reach out to us, follow our social media, and do come to our first Insaca of the year on the 27th of October. That event is almost sold out. The venue is almost at capacity. So I'd advise you to go onto our Eventbrite page and book those tickets if you're interested in coming as soon as possible, because that event is almost at capacity. So that's my kind of little whirlwind introduction to Athens.